going on, guys? Welcome to my channel. This is College Football Insider. My name is Skylar Goff. I'm going to be the host of this show. I just talk about everything college football, big games, playoff runs, all that type of stuff every single day of the week. So this week we're going to be talking about how the Oregon Ducks can possibly make the playoffs. This is a big discussion right now as there are 0 Pac-12 teams that have made the playoffs in the past couple of years. You did have that Washington team that went in and played Alabama and unfortunately lost. Not a Washington fan, but I am a Pac-12 fan, so it would have been good to see them get in. But yeah, we're just going to talk about the Oregon Ducks. They have a loss to Auburn, obviously, first game of the season. They had a 14-3 lead. They had like a 21-6 lead, and they ended up blowing that game, losing it really late in the fourth to Bo Nix and the Auburn Tigers. And so yeah, so let's get right into this. Alright, so the Ducks have an all-time great quarterback in Justin Herbert. He's doing great things this season. 24 passing touchdowns, I believe, 2 interceptions, and he has a rushing touchdown. He's playing pretty well, not as well as Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Tua for Alabama. So obviously there's a little step behind that he's been having when it comes to, I think, confidence. But he made a big game last week against USC. He did have an interception, but he had 3 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, so he played very well against them. But yeah, so let's just start with their loss to Auburn. They had 4 wide receivers out that game: Micah Pittman, Juwan Johnson, Brendan Schooler. I think there was one more. Don't really remember who that is. But they had 4. I knew they had 4 main wide receivers out, which is really unfortunate for them. They came into that game an underdog. They were ranked higher, but they were playing in Arlington, Texas, which is closer to Auburn, so Auburn had the home advantage in the sense that there's definitely going to be more Auburn fans there than Oregon fans. So yeah, they go into that game. They start out fast. Defense played great. First half, they had the lead, and Marcus Arroyo, the Oregon Ducks, the offensive coordinator, started having issues against the Auburn Tigers defense, and they weren't able to produce at a high level as they did in the first half, making them lose that game to a last-second touchdown pass from Bo Nix. Their defense played great that game. When you look at the scoreboard, it looks like Auburn kind of ran all over Oregon's defense because they did almost have 30 points, but it wasn't the case. It was a last-second touchdown pass from Bo Nix. So yeah, so that's the loss. They had some receivers out. A little bit of home advantage for Auburn. Auburn's obviously an SEC school. They're going to play more physical than Oregon. Oregon's actually playing a lot more physical than most Pac-12 teams this year. They lead the league in interceptions. They're playing really good. They allowed 0 first-half touchdowns until their 6th game, I believe. So they are building themselves not too bad of a resume. Let's look at Auburn. Auburn has 2 losses. They're ranked 11th in the nation right now, I believe. Auburn has a loss to LSU where they barely lost, a very close game, and then they have a loss to Florida, who's a top 10 team as well. So Auburn has 2 losses against 2 top 10 teams at the moment, and that's the only team that Oregon's lost to. Now that builds them a pretty good resume, because even though Auburn does have 2 losses, it doesn't really affect the Ducks too much when it comes to the whole entire who you lose to, because Auburn's still a dang good football team, considering that the only teams they've lost to are 2 top 10 teams in the nation, making Oregon's loss look less bad. Oregon did lead all of the Auburn game up until the game-winning touchdown pass from Bo Nix. So the loss against Auburn isn't looking like it affects Oregon's playoff chances as much as it should, considering all the different things that go into it. Now, we can talk about Auburn and how Auburn's a decent football team all day, but at the end of the day, the Oregon Ducks are ranked number 7th in the nation right now, with Georgia, who actually jumped them after beating Florida this week. Georgia's number 6, then you got Penn State at 5, Clemson at 4, Ohio State at number 3, and then you have Alabama at 2, and then LSU at 1. Now, the question is, LSU and Alabama play each other this week. Now, if I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name. If Tua is back and he plays healthy, I do see Alabama running away with this game. They're at home. They are still the number 2 team in the nation. They're undefeated. They've gone to national championship 3 years in a row, I believe. So they're a great football team. LSU is kind of right in there. They're kind of hype. They haven't been in the playoffs yet. They currently are the number 1 team, and they're playing like the number 1 team for sure, which is a close second to Ohio State. I believe Ohio State's probably a little bit better than Alabama overall, and like how they've been playing. Alabama has a pretty weak schedule as well. Haven't played too many great teams up until this LSU game. Still have to play Auburn most likely in the Iron Bowl. So yeah, if Alabama was to lose that game, I do think Alabama deserves to stay in the playoffs. Just because they're a solid football team, they would lose to LSU, who's number 1. I don't think Alabama deserves to drop out of the playoffs. And I think it's the same thing with LSU. If LSU loses, I don't think they deserve to drop out of the playoffs either, which means there's 2 spots left in the college football playoffs. So ideally, I think Alabama wins this game, moves to number 1, LSU drops to 4, and then you have Clemson and Ohio State in between those 2 teams. Ohio State's probably going to be 2, and then Clemson at 3. Maybe LSU at 3, Clemson at 4. But in my opinion, I do not think that the Clemson Tigers are a college football team or a college football playoff team right now, for the reasons that their strength of schedule is beyond weak. They play in the weakest conference, in my opinion, the ACC. They're going to most likely play Virginia, who's 6-3 in their conference championship. So each year it's a cakewalk. They go 12-0 and just get an automatic into the Natty, because how do you deny a 12-0 conference champion out of the national championship, or the national football, or the college football playoffs? My bad. I personally don't think Clemson deserves to be in the playoff spots right now. I don't think they've proven anything. They have to play a 22nd ranked Wake Forest team in the coming weeks. But yeah, it's November. You should be starting playing teams that are going to give you a little bit more of a challenge as the weeks go on. But they played a 5-2 Wofford team, and you probably are asking, who the heck is Wofford? I don't know either. I do know they're 5-2, but they're definitely not playing Power 5 teams. They're definitely playing FCS schools. So Clemson's out here blowing out the beginning teams, because most teams will schedule 3 out-of-conference games, play them, and blow them out just to get in rhythm, get the offense going. So I do think it's kind of pathetic that Clemson football is playing Wofford in November, when teams like Alabama are playing LSU. What are the big rivalries are happening? Florida's playing Georgia, just stuff like that. That's just what makes and breaks it for me when it comes to Clemson football, is that they just don't have the resume right now, and they have yet to prove anything. And they also have a 1-point victory over University of North Carolina. They barely won that game. So I do think if the Oregon Ducks want to make the playoffs, 2 things need to happen. The College Football Committee needs to drop Clemson out of the playoff spot, because they have yet to prove anything this season. They don't schedule anybody good. The best team they'll probably play is Miami, and I think they've already played Miami. I'm not 100% sure on that. I do not know the schedule that well for Clemson, but I do know that they have literally played nobody. They've played, and the ACC is already weak enough that it is the worst conference in college football when it comes to power rankings for each team. So what needs to happen if the Oregon Ducks if the Oregon Ducks want to go to the college football playoffs, is that Clemson needs to either be dropped out of the playoffs, or Ohio State needs to lose to Michigan or Penn State. Penn State's number 5 currently, so if Penn State were to beat Ohio State, I think Oregon would be able to slide in the playoffs, because they have the best resume. Now, Georgia is ahead of Oregon. I do understand that, but Georgia has a at-home loss to South Carolina, who's lost to Tennessee in the past week. So their one loss against that South Carolina team is hurting their playoff picture a little bit. They did beat top 10 Florida this week, which boosted them up above Oregon, because Oregon did play USC, who was an unranked 5-3 team, and they blew them out, which people were talking about how USC might give Oregon a little bit of fight, but after going down 10-0 in the first, Oregon came back and won 56-24 behind Oregon's quarterback Justin Herbert. So yeah, what needs to happen is either Ohio State needs to lose against Michigan and Penn State, and they will drop out of the playoffs, because they're not that dominant 1 or 2 right now. They're still in the 3 or 4 spot. So if they were to lose one of those games or both of those games, they're going to go ahead and drop out. Or Clemson needs to be removed from the playoff picture right now, because they are undefeated, but their strength of schedule is absolute cheeks. I just don't understand why they don't schedule better teams. It's honestly kind of pathetic. But yes, that's what it's looking like right now for the Oregon Ducks. They do need to win out. They do need to beat Utah in the Pac-12 championship, which is also a top 10 team. So that would help their resume even more, because people keep saying, who has Oregon played? Who has Oregon played? Who has Oregon played? And when they did play somebody, they lost to Auburn by a last-second touchdown by Bo Nix. So if Oregon was to go undefeated, go to the Pac-12 championship, and beat Utah, their resume would be the best out of most one-loss teams at the end of the day. So that's College Football Insider this week, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys informed you a little bit about what's going on with the Oregon Ducks. Anyway, it's been your boy Skyler. Catch you guys in the next one. See ya.